It may be week 11 in the Canadian Football League, but this game has implications that could have an effect come playoff time in the CFL. Welcome inside GameDay Winnipeg, everybody. This is Bonfire Sports. My name is Darrin Bauming. Let's bring in the man you all came to see, Chris Walby. Bluto, this game has so many intriguing storylines. Not only is the season series on the line between the Bombers and the Lions. This is the third and final meeting between the two teams. But Vernon Adams Jr. is seemingly injured. Will dress as the third stringer. Nathan Rourke re-debuts in the CFL. Kenny Lawler back for the Blue Bombers, who have won 3 of their past 5 games. Are the Bombers heating up? Is this the second half of the season that Winnipeg can turn it on and forget about, almost erase if they can, that 0-4 start to the season?
You know, I agree with you, DB. I think the biggest thing, buddy, is when they got injuries in the early part of the year, we said when they get healthy and they start going on a roll, they're getting a lot of guys back off that injured list now. Obviously, the biggest one, is Kenny Lawler, who in BC, I think it was last year, had over 211 yards and a couple touchdowns. So he loves playing in that environment, BC plays. But it's going to be a different animal. They've got 55,000 plus. And I can tell you from playing there in the older days, especially in 84 when we had the West Final there, it's very, very hard to communicate, to talk. The O-lineman at that time had to hold hands just to kind of know when the snap count was. So this is going to be an interesting battle. But as you say, there's a couple of things in there. The one is the fact that the BC Lions are 1-1 now. They've won each one a game. But the playoff implications, the Nathan Rourke story, and the thing I think is the biggest thing is redemption. I don't think I've seen a worse performance by an offense, by a leading candidate for MOP and Vernon Adams Jr. the last game when the Bombers shut him out 25-0.
That's right. And it's amazing if you think about how that game unfolded, because nobody was expecting the number one offense in the CFL with a healthy Vernon Adams Jr. to perform the way they did 2 weeks ago in Winnipeg in that 25-0 loss. Since then, BC has lost again. They've lost 3 straight games. They're suddenly not 5-2 like they were coming into Winnipeg a couple weeks ago. They're 5-4 and scrapping for their lives, frankly, while Winnipeg is just kind of gaining a little bit of momentum. A lot of people in the live chat. Great to see everybody out there. Thanks for joining us on GameDay Winnipeg, as we always do. I know you'll all be back for GameDay After Dark and our post-game show live moments after Sunday's game in Vancouver between the Bombers and the Lions. But a lot of people are wondering, like Elias Waldner. Great to see you, Elias. I'm not sure if I've seen you in the live chat before. Welcome. Are we feeling confident about this one? Asks Elias.
I think we are. I think they're building. I think when you come off a 25-0 shutout, holding the the guy, like I said earlier in this show, Vernon Adams Jr., who was the front runner for the MOP of the year at halfway point, to basically, 74 yards passing. They held the ball for 18 minutes out of 60. I mean, the time of possession favored the Bombers so well. But that defense, the Bomber defense came to play. I thought Zach had a great game. Brady Oliveira had a great game. The newcomer who I think is going to be looked at maybe for Rookie of the Year in Pokey Wilson. You know what? This kid, 7 catches. He's the leading receiver in the Bombers now. You can't take that guy out. He's a good receiver, gets downfield. He's got quickness. Now you added Kenny Lawler to that. And you got a Dembski, and they can insert Lucky Whitehead if they want. Yes. So it'll be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah, Lucky Whitehead is an interesting one, Chris. Scores a touchdown, not just in his first game back for the Bombers, but really the first possession that Winnipeg had, and made an immediate impact, was excellent in his first game in a long, long time. And, well, Winnipeg has actually pulled him out of the starting lineup. We're going to take a look at the depth chart in just a second for both teams and the injured lists and get through everything between the Bombers and the Lions. But do you find it interesting, Chris, that it's Lucky Whitehead coming out of the starting receiving core, remaining on the roster just to handle kicks, and Josh Johnson, who really hasn't done much, remains in?
They're high on Josh Johnson for some reason. They say he's tough.
They must have
That's
been
great.
listening to me
He's a good
because I
blocker,
was
but
singing the praises in the preseason, right?
I know, and I just watched Coach O'Shea last week talk about Josh Johnson again, and saying, this is a guy that we really like. But I know I read some comments from some of your colleagues on another network who were very surprised that Josh Johnson is still there. But you see that Lucky Whitehead is backing him up. I expect you'll see Lucky in there as well. There'll be some alternating, but
absolutely,
obviously Lucky Whitehead is going to be the primary returner. And I like that move. I think it's great. Nothing against Cody Case, who was the guy before, but I think Lucky Whitehead brings a little bit different animal. He's got great speed. He was with BC for a couple of years, and I believe he had like 3 or 4, maybe even more return touchdowns. So he knows how to find that end zone. He knows how to break that first tackle. I think this is one of the pieces the Bombers are looking for, because I think they're near the bottom in punt return and kickoff return average. So I think I'm really excited to see Whitehead, what he does. And then, of course, you're look at that left side with Wilson and Lawler. They just got talent. It's talent. And Brady Oliveira, we talk about him every week, but how can you not? 20-plus runs over 10 yards. He's leading rusher, I believe, still. He just gets it done. And he says he's just reaching. The motor's starting to warm up. So he's got a little Corvette in him, and he's ready to get it going. So we'll see what happens. It seems like
people kind of forget about Brady Oliveira and how good
he
is.
We're used to it, right?
Winnipeg absolutely laid the boots to the Lions last week, Chris. That game was in control from start to finish. But it was bully ball again. What is bully ball? It's when Winnipeg just continues to feed Brady Oliveira. Run. Late in the third quarter, through the fourth quarter, keeping the ball in their possession, killing the clock. It's bully ball. It's absolutely dominant. And it's such a, it's such an impactful advantage. It's such an advantage the Blue Bombers have, that while pass protection maybe isn't as good as it used to be, definitely not amongst the best in the league this year, this offensive line, but running the football, it's a completely different story. Can you provide some insight, Chris, in your 17 years? I always say 17 years playing.
Well, I like the fact that you want to give me an extra year of paycheck.
Yeah, I'll give you an extra year, 17. Yeah. So through your 16 years, why is there a difference between pass blocking and run blocking like we've seen with Winnipeg's O-line?
One is you're the hammer, the other one's you're the nail. Seriously, when you're run blocking, you're the hammer. You're pushing. You're going after the guy. You're aggressive. When you're a pass pro, you got to sit back. And there's a lot of guys that they run twists on defense. They run different kind of They bring different linebackers. It's a lot of things. But I'm going to say one thing. Just one more thing about Brady. The thing that's killing me, or not killing me, the thing I'm very excited about Brady is, if you watch the last game, he had, 9 catches or something like that. The fact that he's getting the ball, he's a check down. It's all check down. Mm-hmm. And, Zach threw the ball to him a number of times. He got 32 catches. His career high is 38, and we're only halfway into the year. So I expect you're going to see a lot more of Brady, not only running, but catching the football, because he was making big things on yards after the catch, or yak yards, as we like to call it. So, I'm excited. But as far as your point about, being aggressive, yeah, I think the O-line loves to run block. Every O-lineman loves to run block. You don't want to be sitting in one situation where you're just basically, you're just catching all the time. So I think they have to establish run, and I think any team has to do that. You can't be one-dimensional and win football games. I don't think the Bombers are. I think they got a great running game. And I love the fact that they can utilize these guys out of the backfield catching the football. So that's a plus.
Chris, after watching last night's game between
Saskatchewan.
Between Saskatchewan and Montreal. Montreal improving to 9-1 on the season. The Riders losing again. They are 1-4-1 in their last 6 games to be at 5-4 on the season.
And they could have won these games.
Oh, easily.
You looked at yesterday, the game. Obviously, Brett Lawler. I don't even know if you might want to change your address because, obviously missing 4 field goals, 1 that was returned for a touchdown. That's taken at least 12 points off the board. They had an opportunity to win that game. And it seems like every game they find a way. Their defense is playing good. They're still leading the league in takeaways, but they just can't stop the other team. And obviously when your special teams let you down like they did yesterday, it was ugly. Saskatchewan's a better team than their record shows.
This is the point I'm getting to, though, Chris. The West is wide open. Winnipeg is 2.5 2 games out of first place at 3-6. The Riders 5-4-1. The Lions 5-4. A win on Sunday in Vancouver will put Winnipeg at 4-6. They will hold the season series against the BC Lions, winning 2 of their 3 meetings this season. Calgary kind of remains a meddling team right now, and their schedule seems to be more indicative of how they're going to play than who they are themselves. And the Riders are reeling right now. Yes, Trevor Harris is back and healthy and played relatively well. AJ Ouellette, I thought, played his best game of the season. But the Riders are not this world killer everybody had them up to be. Yeah, they lose to a team that is now, now 9-1. Here's the Montreal Alouettes atop the East and atop the CFL. Sure, they lose to a team that's only lost 1 game this season, but Davis Alexander, he's looked great, but this is their backup quarterback.
I know, and that's just one thing. I mean, you're talking about a generation where you want new quarterbacks to come in to make, there's got to be an evolution of quarterbacks who are from the backups to starters. And I think this kid's really doing well, much like a Drew Brown did with Winnipeg. I think the biggest thing is to watch is the team that's surprising me the most, and I'm really happy, is Coach Bobby Dice.
Yeah.
And the Ottawa Red Blacks. They are playing superb football. I mean, really good football. Look at that, 6-2. And I guarantee last year, if I go back, they were probably 2-6. They really are turning it on. They're playing well defensively. They're playing well special teams. They got Dedmon there with 30 balls.
Sorry to interrupt. Only +9 in point differential.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing. He's got him believing.
Yes.
Boy, it's a weird thing when your team knows that they can win any game they're in, and not going in there with a defeatist attitude by saying, okay, let's just hang in the best we can. We're probably not going to win this football game. The mindset of the Red Blacks has changed dramatically because of Bobby Dice and the coaching staff and the players they were bringing in. It's nice to see, the nation's capital having a good football club.
Yeah. Great comment here from CJ Diddick. Bombers start the week 3.5-point favorites with Rourke returning now and starting for the Lions. The Bombers are now 2.5-point dogs. Rourke could be rusty, and I have no clue why the line dropped, says CJ Diddick. I think, look, often these betting lines are more about the hype around the game because it's not about the result. It's what are people gambling on? If everybody starts pouring money into the BC Lions, why keep them underdogs, right? Make them favorites, make those people and all that money that they're taking in earn it. So Winnipeg might actually still be a favorite in this game if you were taking something objective where they weren't taking, 3/4 of the bets on the Lions to win, right?
Okay, there's a couple factors here, DB. The Lions are undefeated at home. They're 4-0 at home.
Mm-hmm.
The Bombers are 0-3 on the road. So that's one of the factors these bettors look at. The other thing is Nathan Rourke has not just been sitting on his entire fourth quarter of the game of the Atlanta Falcons before getting released. Now, he'll be the first to admit he didn't play well. 3 of 13, I think he corrected. But he's back with Jordan 𝘎𝙤𝙤, the offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
They've tweaked a few things. They've changed a few terminologies. But he's very familiar with the guys, and he's very familiar with the coach. So I think that's the reason he's playing, and he's going to start tomorrow. And I think it's a bonus. Now people are saying, what's going to happen with Vernon Adams Jr., man? Can he do this? Well, you're going to see both of them play. Not tomorrow, because Vernon Adams is going to be in street clothes. He won't even be dressed. The backup quarterback will be Chase Bryce. Vernon will be in street clothes. They're not even going to take a chance putting him in. They don't have to. Nathan is fresh. He's ready to play. He's exhausted, I believe, all his opportunities to go down to the NFL. He got tired of waiting. He got tired of just going for, flying across the country, playing a quarter, playing a half.
Living out of hotels.
And he's now the highest paid, player in the CFL. So that tells you about what they wanted. And BC is, I don't think he was going to go to any other team. I know they're talking Calgary.
100%. 100%.
He was going to BC. He likes BC. He likes the players. He knows the players. And I mentioned before, he likes Rick Campbell, the head coach. He's in love with the offensive coordinator, Jordan 𝘎𝙤𝙤.
How could you
This is
not?
a win-win. And that's why I think that having him start is exciting for me. Because I like the way this guy throws a football. He's smart. Think what he did in 2022 when he won the most outstanding player, right? I mean, I think he threw 25 touchdowns and 10 interceptions in 10 games. So he can get it done. Now it's a different team, you're right, but they still got Katoy. They still got Hatcher. They don't have Dominic Rhymes when he was used to Dominic. But, I mean, you're looking at some of the guys. He's got Justin McInnes, who has been cold for the last couple games.
MOC runaway right now, though.
Yeah, well, the guy's a big target. He catches anything. But it just seems like as the quarterback goes, it tells you how the receivers go. And they haven't been playing up to par. So that's the thing I'm looking forward to. And there's one last factor that makes me think that about the odds, and that is the crowd. I don't care. When you're in a dome, it is crazy loud. And I wish I could explain how loud it is when you can't even hear your own thoughts. And it's that craziness that's going to be it usually counts for a couple procedures every game.
Winnipeg's been practicing with crowd noise this week.
Yeah, but I don't care. You know what? Unless the crowd noise is beyond, whatever decibel, it's not the same as being in that dome where, you can't. Look at us in '84 when we had to get those stupid helmets. And Cal Murphy got all those helmets for us. And we put recording devices. We put microphones in our helmets.
Yeah.
And Tom Clements had the speaker in his helmet. And we get our helmets the day of the game. And we're like Kazoo from the Flintstones. The helmets don't fit. Because now we got all this information up top, so they're all up here. So now we had to order new helmets for the game. So you know what? It's like a piece of your property. You're used to your helmet. Now we had to play with different helmets. It was we thought, oh, Christ. And then you go out there and the BC Lions are sliding us under this, these pamphlets under our door. Hey, come to the Grey Cup party for the BC Lions. Well, you want to put a fire under our ass. That sure did. And the rest is history as we won that game. And that was the Grey Cup game to me.
Chris,
beating UC in '84.
That's so interesting to think back to that time. What is that? That's 40 years ago, and how technology has changed, right? Couple things I wanted to touch on Nathan Rourke. The money that he'll make this year is prorated to around $500,000-$600,000 a year, so he'll make $250,000 the rest of the year. The tickets that the BC Lions have sold for Sunday's game, since Rourke was announced that he was back with the Lions, that'll cover his salary for the rest of the year. Incredible. The other thing, go ahead. Yeah.
What's the owner of the BC Lions name?
Amar Doman.
Can I tell you, that guy has done a great job.
Amazing
what a beautiful job that guy's done. Bringing in great acts. And of course the Grey Cup's there. And I see that we're getting a lot of alumni news I'm getting right now that, we can, go to the game. We get a discount on some of the tickets, but it's tough to get tickets still. But that's a great place to watch a game. Beautiful weather, beautiful city. And actually, it's funny. I just want to throw one other anecdote in here about how close the league is. We just got a letter from Quinn Magnuson on email to all the alumni of the Bombers.
Yeah.
Saskatchewan's having an alumni golf tournament. And they are inviting us.
Really?
If we have any players from the Bombers that want to come, the alumni, not the players that are playing, but to come down, they're driving guys out there in limos to Saskatchewan.
Oh.
You get free drinks, free food, free golf. I would go, but I can't. I can't do that, man. If I'm not paying, I ain't staying. What an idiot.
I love it. Some people wondering about Nathan Rourke's rust. Because, look, he signed in the middle of the week. This is my take on it. The familiarity he has with Jordan Maksimic. And if you ask me who the MOP of the league is over the last 4 or 5 years, it could be Lions offensive coordinator Jordan Maksimic. He has made it happen with Michael Riley and a bad offensive line. He made it happen with Nathan Rourke as that O-line in BC got a little bit better. He's made it happen at such an incredibly high level with Vernon Adams Jr. That familiarity Rourke has with Jordan Maksimic, I think, will make it easy to pare down a playbook and design it for Nathan Rourke, what he knows, what he's comfortable with, and what will work. So I honestly don't think rust is going to be too much of an issue. Some people saying, oh, it's only 2 practice days. No. He probably practiced and was throwing balls on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Came in first. As soon as he got in, he practiced.
Yeah.
He practiced as soon as he got there.
You could say he's had 5 days prep. That's for me. That's enough for somebody of the caliber of Nathan Rourke.
Well,
to
here's
be
what I
very
say.
good.
There's probably a little pressure to play him early too, because you can't go with Vernon and Chase Bryce, the backup. You know, he hasn't played at all hardly. I don't think he's even thrown a pass. So you go all of a sudden you go to a former MOP plan. To me, it's a win-win, right? I mean, this is a great situation, right? I think Nathan definitely, but the rust factor, you're right. He hasn't played in the CFL, bigger field, but look what he's got. He's got a great running back and stand back. They got a good offensive line. I read a big article on Jarrell Broxton, the left tackle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he was a defensive lineman with him last year. It's crazy. You know, they showed a picture
both sides
against Marcus Hardrick, and now he's on offensive line there. He's a left tackle. They got a good old line. They're not bad. Mind you, they gave up 4 sacks to the Bombers last week, the last time they played. And, I mean, the Bombers' defense is they're kicking butt, man. No touchdowns in the last 2 games. I think it's like 45 or something offensive drives. They haven't given up any touchdowns. I don't know if you can play much better than they did last week against the last game against BC, holding them to like some crazy 59 yards in the first half offense. I mean, I look at the stats sometimes and I do a double check. Yeah,
3 first downs.
That is crazy. I don't know what the record is, but it's got to be pretty dang close. So, I mean, that to me is cool. I mean, that's the thing that I think the Bombers – I always say this. Offense wins games, defense wins championships. We always said that whenever I played. In almost every game that we played in the Grey Cup, our defense is one of the keys that got us to it, except for the first game when we beat Hamilton. That was a game that, even Stan Mikwa scored a touchdown. And I have to live with that every day when I talk to him. But, you know, the biggest thing is our offense scored 50-something points. So even Edmonton, we scored 50, 11. So but most of the time it's our defense. Our defense gets you there. We got such great players, and I love them all. And actually, speaking of my alumni and my brothers, Thursday I'm going to be at the Canadians Polo Park for the celebration of life for my brother and roommate, Lyle Bauer, who, you know, passed away earlier this year. So there'll be a lot of guys flying in from the old team. And then you mentioned the 84. I believe they're doing something. The 84 team is getting inducted into some Hall of Fame, I think, and the Manitoba Hall of Fame, I think.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot of guys coming for that. It's a special time of year. But when you say 40 years, my God, think about it, buddy, eh? 40 years ago. You know, and I don't look a day over 80. You know, I'm looking good.
18? Yeah, a day over 18.
I know. My beard gives it away. I was going to dye it, but my wife says, don't you dare.
Don't you dare do that.
No, I know, because Santa Claus is coming. It's almost wintertime.
The only thing you're going to dye is tie-dye in those pink tank tops that you like wearing out
I like wearing. Well, yeah. Hey, listen, we're going for a men-only boat ride today after this. So
what does that mean?
Well, my kids like to just have all the guys go, and my grandkids, and all the ladies, we say, see ya. Load a
Saturdays
cooler
for
up.
the boys. Saturdays
Yeah,
for the
we
boys.
load it up with some, 7-Up and stuff like that, and water. And just make sure we're all hydrated the right way.
Well, speaking of getting hydrated and the years going by, happy birthday to Carol. And I believe this is Carol, who is like the customer service savant.
She's great. You're talking Carol Barrett?
Blue Bombers.
I think it is. She's a wonderful lady. Wonderful. Happy birthday, kid.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, you mentioned cracking some cold ones.
Cheers.
Where else to do that than one of my favorite places? It should be yours too. Scotswood Links in beautiful Elm Creek, Manitoba, just 30 minutes outside the city. I'm going to send a link in the live chat right now to their website. Just look at this place. Brand new, beautiful clubhouse. Looks pretty nice, eh? Woo! Look at that joint. Perfect patios to kick back with your friends.
That's right. That's the 18th or the 19th hole they call it, right?
That's right. Yeah. If you got an event, a wedding, whatever it may be, Scotswood will take care of you. Just a beautiful prairie meadow and prairie forest golf course just outside the city. It's going to be worth your trip. If you haven't golfed there, or even if you have, head on back and see our good friends. We were a little bit late starting the show today. Granny Bomber fan says, how much longer? I have a tea time at 2:00. Well, you can keep us on your phone and listen while you head out to the course, but you want to check out Scotswood Links. Again, that website, scotswoodlinks.com, and you will have a great time out there with our good friends at Scotswood. And big thanks to them for their support this season. With a 23-point advantage, Chris, in the Blue Bombers season series, right? They lost by 2 back in week 3 at home to the Lions. They beat them 25-0. So that works out to a 23-point advantage, albeit if it's a tie. If this, like, we've already seen a tie in the CFL this year. If there's a tie Sunday night in Vancouver, I don't think that's going to happen. I know you're with me there, but it's a 23-point differential between the Bombers and the Lions right now. And believe me, when you look at the CFL standings right now, you know how close this West Division is and will be through this final stretch of the season. It'll be important for Winnipeg to put up points, Chris. And, you know, we don't know what we're going to get in Nathan Rourke, but we do know what we're going to get in the Bombers offense. There he is highlighted on the left side of your screen. Kenny Lawler back after breaking his arm in week 1 and week 11, 10 weeks later. Here he is as a re-addition to the Bombers offense. Kolaris no doubt will be happy. I think Ontario Wilson will be happy too. There'll be a lot less focus on him. Your perspective on Kenny Lawler, who I will say, Chris, got a ton of work in practice this week in Winnipeg. They were throwing him the ball all the time.
And rightly so. I mean, the guy makes magic. I mean, he catches balls that other people can't. His ability to adjust to the ball in air, in flight, and twist his body in some kind of contortion to catch footballs. He's one of the best. It's being a great receiver, great leader, a guy that was dying on the sidelines, because it's hard to, you're not part of the team. I don't care what anybody says. You don't feel the same. And it must be an anguish for him to watch the Bombers lose these games, knowing he couldn't do anything but maybe vocally, encourage the rest of the guys. But with him back there, and I still think this, I think, Josh Johnson's is starting, but I think on the other side, I think you're going to see the injection of a touchdown last game. I think Lucky brings that speed too. You can't now. What do? You double team Lawler? You double team Lawler, Wilson goes. You double team Wilson, Lawler goes. Then you're not even looking at Dembski, who thinks maybe now I'll get some opening, because they've been, taking away Dembski. Mind you, he's fumbled a couple of times, which is not normal for number 10.
Let's just say those are done for the year. He's got enough for 2 seasons already.
Oh, yeah. And I think that he's still that guy, that X factor. But the X factor to me this week is not Dembski. It's Lucky Whitehead, not only as a receiver, but more importantly as a returner. I went back, looked at his stats, and according to what BC says, he had 6 touchdowns in 2 years. That's pretty damn good, man. So, I mean, I think he's going to be a real jolt of electricity to that special teams unit, the return unit, which I don't think has been performing as well as it can. I think their cover team has done pretty good, but I don't think the team has been anything to write home about. And I think Lucky will give something to that, a little spark, if you would.
Yeah, no question. A lot of people have been asking about Rasheed Bailey, who still has not signed anywhere since being cut by the Toronto Argonauts. Rob Somerville is watching live on YouTube. What's going on, Rob? Asked a little bit earlier, can you provide any information, insight to the situation between the Bombers and Bailey? Are they still interested in bringing him back to the team, or has that ship sailed? I don't know if that ship was even on the water.
No, I don't think so.
They had Lucky Whitehead. They had Lawler, and don't forget 𝘎𝙤𝙤𝙧𝙚 Wheatfall, who was the first player to come into the Bombers receiving corps when Lawler went down. And what did 𝘎𝙤𝙧𝙧 Wheatfall do in week 2? His CFL debut as a rookie, he had 111 yards in a game in Ottawa. Winnipeg ultimately lost that game, but when you put up 111 in your first CFL game and then you get hurt, clearly there's some potential there. So they're high on Josh Johnson. I know he hasn't done too much, but getting Lawler back, having 𝘎𝙤𝙧𝙧 Wheatfall return from the 6th game. He practiced this week. He remains on the Bombers injured list. Ontario Wilson, the emergence that he has made, I think Winnipeg has been very, very comfortable with the receivers that they do have. adding in Lucky Whitehead to that, I just didn't see an opportunity for Rasheed Bailey to add.
No,
To
and I agree with you. Those are excellent points, DB. I think the other thing is that I think it was fan generated, right? The fans were interested. The fans started saying, "Hey, let's sign him. Let's get him." Because what surprises me, and to this day still, and I know that he's not the oldest cat in the Wear books, but Toronto I think he had 4 touchdowns for Toronto before he got released, or 2 touchdowns, whatever it was. They wanted to go younger. They had other guys who are younger, and you wonder sometimes if it's just about salary, but he's not even making a lot of money. And I think, I'm very surprised that he hasn't been picked up by somebody.
Mm-hmm.
This is what is really intriguing me. Like, can you not see a team like Edmonton taking him? You know what I mean? There's other teams that I think could use a guy that's not only a great receiver, I think, but his blocking downfield is phenomenal. So
I really like him. I just don't think that he has. This is all due respect to Rasheed Bailey because, I found out this week tons of Bombers players, current and past, watch these shows. They watch Game Day After Dark with me and Schnitzy in the post game. They watch me and you, Chris. I know a lot of your friends and the alumni watch these shows. I'm not going to talk ill will of somebody who I know is a good player and a great person. But Rasheed Bailey, I don't know. I'm not talking to him or his agent. I don't know what his ask is. But if you want a receiver, yes, he can block well. Yes, he is a veteran and he's been there before. Yes, he's going to give you 110% on every play. I just think for a lot of teams out there, you need the right mix of need in order to go get him. And I just don't know if Rasheed Bailey, again, all due respect to him, I don't know if he provides that upside, that offensive explosion upside in the next year or even later this season where a GM is going to be like, okay, I really want to sign this guy, and they go get it done.
Yeah. I think it'll be one of those situations where a team has a dire need for a receiver where they start looking at him. I still think Edmonton can use him. I think Ottawa could use him. But again, I think you hit it right on the head. It has to be a proper fit. You have to fit into the scheme. You have to fit into the locker room. And I'm not saying he's bad because I think he's an outstanding locker room guy. You talk to anybody in that locker room, they loved him. Inspirational, leader, just a great teammate.
Great dude.
So, this is one of those things that listen, I know you're not dogging him and I know you're not. It's respect and you're giving an honest answer, an analytical answer of why he's not picked up yet. But I still think he's got a future in the CFL. But again, if he sits out a whole year now, it's way harder to come back because you're developing young players, as you mentioned with the Bombers, with Ontario Wilson, when you got these other guys coming back in, Josh Johnson, and you mentioned that other Carrick Wheatfall. There's no room. It's just one of those things. There's no room, right?
Well, and look at a veteran like Aaron Grimes, who, no doubt is in the back nine, maybe even the 18th hole of his career. The Bombers signed the veteran defensive back, multiple times CFL All-Star, to the practice roster, and then released him yesterday. So,
okay, that's news to me. Thank you for catching up on that.
These things happen, right? You bring in a veteran guy. I'm not making any comparison between Aaron Grimes and Rasheed Bailey or anybody.
No, they're two different people.
I don't think that's fair to do.
No.
But, it's, are you in shape? Where's your commitment to the game? And how much gas you got left in the tank? And, they brought in Aaron Grimes to see what they had. Because Winnipeg's defense is young on the back end, right? You've got, Terrell Bonds, Terrell Ford, and Marquise Bridges, all young players in the Blue Bombers defensive secondary that are young, and they,
the only old timer
that can help, right?
The only old guy they got is Brandon Alexander, really. But I was listening to a comment, and I know this is your favorite guy, right over there, number one.
Yeah. And
I remember they were talking about Tyrell Bonds on the corner. And, you think he was going to wax poetic about Bonds, but he goes, you know what? Anybody who plays besides Dietrich Nichols is going to be good.
Yep.
And I thought that is a crazy thing. It's just, you got to love that, man. So.
Yeah. I mean, the Blue Bombers defense has been outstanding this year, Chris. They've allowed just a handful of touchdowns in their last 3 games. And I don't expect them to be as dominant as they were in the 25-0 win against BC. in the rematch, it being 2 weeks later. I think BC being at home will help a lot. You talk about the crowd noise and all of that. Obviously, that won't be too much of a factor when Winnipeg is on defense. But the playing in your own stadium with your own fans, getting hyped, and the crowd exploding when you make a big play on offense, that affects the defense, right? But Winnipeg is getting is getting a little bit healthier too as 𝘎𝙤𝙛𝙀 returns to the starting defensive line. And I think to have, like, look, I'll just pull it up again here. You know this better than anybody, Chris. The pressure Winnipeg could possibly generate Sunday will make Nathan Rourke's day that much more difficult. Jefferson has been vintage. Garbutt, we're seeing now why he won the starting job coming out of training camp, but then, was injured for the first third of the season. 𝘎𝙤𝙀, a starter from last year. Why do I keep wanting to call him Devin Woods? Jamal Woods, thank you. It was Devin Adams, the other defensive lineman who's now on the practice roster. But Jamal Woods and Schmeckel and Thomas. How about Owen Hubert? The guy has been a beast for an 8th-round draft pick. Winnipeg's defensive front, you got Big Hill. We'll talk about, Jones stepping in for the injured.
Wilson. Yeah, Kyrie Wilson.
Kyrie Wilson. See, hey, you're helping me out just like I used to help you out, right?
Yeah, that's good, though. But I'll tell you what, what's going to be interesting to me in this game is BC. If BC scores first, I think that is a huge monkey off BC. The fact that they got shut out last week. If they score first, you're going to get that crowd even more ramped up. I think 100%. The Bombers, not to give away any of my keys, but the Bombers have to take the crowd out of it. They have to score first, score often, and touchdowns, not just field goals. Even though that Sergio has got he's got over 57 times this year. He's got his 260 yarders. I mean, he is a freak. But those of you who don't know about a dome, the dome is dead air. Mm-hmm. Bob Cameron, who's the punter of the century, best punter in CFL history, in my books, especially in the wind, he'll tell you, because the dome has dead air, as the ball goes up, it kind of gets pushed down just from the air. It's not wind. It's nothing like that. It's just dead air. So I don't know. Everybody thinks that if you're in that, this beautiful facility, that you kick a 90-yard field goal because there's no wind, but it's a different animal out there. So we're going to see. Will Sergio attempt it? I think so. I mean, he's so confident right now. I think he can kick a 65-yarder. But I don't know if he can do it at a place like that. If he's wind-aided outside, I think so.
They'll always gauge those things on, in warm-up, right? I think what's interesting, Chris, when you talk about that dead air in the dome at BC Place, it's one thing if you can, like gauging the wind and the air pressure and all those sorts of things and how it affects your kicks in the pregame. But then when you fill that building with 30,000+, 40,000+ fans and all the staff and everyone on the field, that can change things, right? It'll change the humidity and the temperature. It'll change the air pressure and all that sort of stuff. So even if Sergio Castillo is like blinders on, locked in, as kickers know how to do, it could still be a different kick from pregame to in-game. So I think kicking at halftime and trying things out at the halftime break will be a factor. So whether he goes out there and attempts a 57-yarder, something in that range in the first half versus the second half is something I'll be watching.
Well, and the other thing is, DB, to add to your point, this is a situation when you're playing in a dome where whether, it doesn't matter what side of the field you have. You're not trying to keep the wind in the fourth quarter. There's no wind. So, you know what I mean? It's like, it really doesn't matter. I mean, most teams like to have it in the second or the fourth because you got longer because of 3 minutes warning, right? And it's like a little mini ball game after that. And hopefully, and I don't want to start another animal here, but hopefully what I'm seeing now is this command center doesn't get involved anymore because I think they've been horseshit. Sorry about my language, but I mean, if you look at that Saskatchewan-Ottawa game when they called roughing the passer late that allowed Ottawa to come back and kick a tying field goal and go on to win that game or tie that game. That's a 22-yard field game. I don't like that call. You can't start orchestrating every call. And how did they miss it? I mean, it's a bad call. Bad call. Yeah, I can see touchdowns, review touchdowns. Though yesterday when that Alexander was straddling the sideline. Yeah, great. Look at that. But when you start making calls in the heat of the moment, would affect the game. And it did affect the game because Saskatchewan should have won that game. It's another game they should have won. So that's 2 games that Saskatchewan's lost. One because of just poor, crappy kicking, and one because of a terrible call at the end. But you know what? That's the way it is. No, it's it's water under the bridge. It's spilled milk, whatever you want to call it. And I don't want to spend my time talking about the Regina Patties. I want to talk about the Bombers, how they're going to come out and play hard. And it's going to be a tough game. I am looking forward to watching this game. This is one of those games, I talk a lot about the Prairie for rivalry when I like when Winnipeg plays Sask. I do like those games. But when you got a Nathan Rourke come back, it adds a little element of electricity to the game. Mm-hmm. We all want to see what Nathan Rourke's going to do. Is he rusty? Is he not rusty? Is he going to come in and play a good game, or is he going to get shit kicked? You know what I mean? Again, excuse my language.
That's okay.
I know, but I don't know why I say that.
No, it's you know what? It's okay. I honestly don't think that word is going to be a swear in like 5 years. It's almost not a swear as it is.
According to our society, maybe not. But I don't want to get into that either. But yeah, anyway, apologies if I offend anybody. But yeah, I just hope the Bombers come out and play. I hope they get off the board and really go out and move the ball first drive. But I think the defense is going to, to me, it's about the defense and going against Nathan and these receivers, because they got some receivers, man. I don't care what anybody says. You got Alexander Hollins, you got freaking Hatcher, Justin McKenna, Eberhardt, and that kid you like, that Stanley Berryhill.
I like Eberhardt.
So, I mean, yeah, you said that last time too. Mm-hmm. But these guys were so ineffective because of the pressure. I've never seen pressure like that on Adams before. And as you mentioned, Willie Jefferson at D-line, they were all over him. Willie looked like, if you let Willie go one-on-one all the time, he's going to make it ugly for you. But then you look you just showed up, because Willie's great. I like Garbutt. Jake Thomas, he's the longest serving Bomber right now. Still makes it happen. Yeah. He still makes it happen. I mean,
it's like in the fourth quarter, Chris, his motor, he's got incredible stamina and endurance. Like he plays full speed and, like first quarter energy in the fourth quarter for a veteran like that, to me, that's really impressive.
Well, it is impressive because if he wasn't, then your buddy, the favorite name in the world is Schmeckel. You like that name. You like to sing it all the time. Connor Schmeckel. I like that name too, but I would never say it. Well, I just did twice. Sorry.
You did.
Okay.
Yeah. The Blue Bombers linebacking core has seen a lot of change throughout the year. Adam Bighill being nicked for a little bit, Kyrie Wilson being on the 6-game injured list currently. Tony Jones is a player that was highlighted on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers website this past week. Great writing as always, and work by their team, Ed Tate and others. But Tony Jones came into this season expecting to be the starting linebacker for the Edmonton Elks. And by the way, people asking if it's true that they've changed their name, new ownership in Edmonton. No, they are still the Edmonton Elks. They're not the Esks or the Eskimos. Again, there were some rumors that it was, they changed their name to the Esks. Not true. The Edmonton Elks. But Tony Jones was there. And then out of nowhere, Chris Jones cut him. Winnipeg's like, hey, let's bring this guy in. Adding Tony, I think Tony Jones has played really, really well, Chris. Smart player. And the way Retta Cramdy described him this week, I thought this was outstanding in reading Ed Tate's piece on the Bombers website. It's like, if you're in a dark alley at 3 a.m, Tony Jones is the guy I want with me. It's always nice when you hear guys say things like that, because that they have a little bit of an edge, right? That they play with. Tony
walks around with a gun.
Wow. Maybe he's got 2 guns.
I'm just kidding. I love that when people say, because that is the epitome of toughness. When they describe a guy as saying, if I had gotten a barroom fight, I'd like to have this guy by my side. That was like, when I played, it was a guy that didn't even play with us, but I got to work with him at CBC, and that's Dan Kepley. And Dan Kepley was, unfortunately, went to jail for a number of DUIs, right? I don't want to get into his personal thing, but he said he was in jail. And he went to use the phone, and a group of people came up and said, "Sorry, man, you got to pay to use the phone." And he said, "Okay, send me the guy. Send me your tough guy." And the guy came over and Kipley kicked the crap out of him. And he said, "Okay, you can use the phone." So I mean, that he was tough. Dan was tough. I mean, I love listening to his stories, man. This guy was I tell stories, but this guy could tell stories. He's an old war veteran. Like, he's just one of these guys that's tougher than nails, right? Plays with, back then you played with your fingers are broken. His fingers are like mine. You break your fingers, you just get them taped. You don't come out. You don't go on 8 game or 6 game or 1 game. You get back and play. And I'm not saying the players are softer. I think today they're more safety conscious. Back then it was just like, take a smelling salt, get your ass back in the game. So,
well, I think part of that too is, like, you told your story a couple weeks ago about nearly losing your finger, and them almost encouraging you to just sever the finger so you can get back to playing soon. And you're like, no. Right. I think that's part of it too, where players are more conscious of their, quality of life after football, and for their family, not just for themselves, but for their family, for their kids, all those sorts of things. But yeah, if you break a finger, it's not going to affect your life. Chris, hold your hand up. I think you can be a testament to that. Yeah. And you have a great quality of life. A great quality.
Well, I do have a great quality of life. If I can hold a cold beer, I'm happy. You know what I mean? Exactly. As long as I can grip that beer. But I'll tell you another thing. I want to tell you one other thing. I remember we played in the States. I think we were playing against Shreveport. I blew my bicep. I hit a guy, got a caught between 2 people, blew my right bicep. I come back. I'm thinking, okay, I'm not playing. I didn't even get to miss a game. The next week we're playing Saskatchewan. They taped my arm up in a position that I have to go down on my stance with my left hand at a right tackle. And I had to go against Bobby Jurison. And it was crazy. And he'd even say to me, "What are you doing, Walls? Why are you playing?" I go, "I got no choice, man. There was no choice. You were forced to play." And, I remember coming into the locker room thinking, I'm not playing. There's my jersey. I go, "You got to be shiting me. I got to play." He goes, "Yep, you're in." That was just the way it was. You had that mentality back then, don't make the club in the tub, and you got to go. Nowadays, I agree. I think it's way better for what you just said, quality of life after. Not many guys play. I played 16 years. Most of the guys that last that long are kickers, because kickers don't do shit. So, third time, I apologize again. Kickers don't do. I mean, you know what I mean.
Yeah, sure.
Did you see Brett?
You rave about Bob Cameron, and then you say kickers don't do shit.
I like Bob. Bob, you should see Bob. They're showing Bob in a video highlight trying to tackle Gizmo Williams. And it was just the biggest. He went down into the sumo squat, and he's like this.
And he just took him?
I mean, you got to love Bobby. But Bobby's one of those guys, and I'll say this, honest to God, Bobby doesn't do a lot of public speaking. But if you ever get a chance to talk stories with Bob Cameron, he has a Rolodex of memories. He remembers stuff that he just hits on points. You go, "Oh, I remember that now." He's just a great guy. Great guy.
Bob the Builder.
I was supposed to golf on a bocce ball for Alzheimer's on Wednesday with him, with Mike Kelly, who's in town too. And unfortunately, I couldn't make it because I got my grandkids coming to the lake, and I'm going to be doing golf with my son. So I'm going to show off my lack of golf skills because I do not have good golf skills. It's okay though. That's okay. Anyway, now I'm feeling quite sad. All right.
Well, I'll try to lighten the mood with an injury update on Drew Wolotarski.
Hey, that's what I want to hear.
Sniss asking for it. Unfortunately, it's not good news, at least at the time being. Drew Wolotarski not taking part in practice, is on the 6-game injury list after taking that shot to the abdomen, the side, the thorax.
Yeah.
Word of the year in 2024 in Bomberland. But taking that shot to the thorax, to the abdomen, you have to wonder how serious that injury potentially was to Drew Wolotarski. I don't think his season is over. We never know. But if I had to guess, it's something internal. So, that could really mean anything. But looking at the Blue Bombers injured list right now, mentioned Wolotarski, same with Kyrie Wilson, no update on him. We do know Dalton Schoen is out for the season. Jamal Parker, I fear, could be as well. I mean, hey, injured in training camp. They have not ruled him out for the season, so who knows? Maybe playoffs will be something else. Patrick Neufeld remains on the 6-game injured list after landing there last week. Cameron Lawson, I sure wonder if he is going to be able to return to the lineup this season. Fellow defensive lineman Miles Fox, like you get Fox and Lawson back, adding in Haba and Garbutt and Willie Jefferson and Jake Thomas and Owen Hubert and all the other guys. Like, man, that D-line is only going to get better. Bailey Feltmate is their fullback. He's on the 6-game injured list. Brian Cole, another linebacker to go with Kyrie Wilson on the 6-game injured list. And then rookie running back, fullback Chris Ike on the 6-game injured list as well. And it's so tough, Chris, with the 6-game because we really don't know how serious those injuries are. We can't talk to them individually. Mike O'Shea won't speak on them. The only reason we got definitive word on Dalton Schoen being out for the season is that we had national reports, namely Dave Naylor at TSN saying he's out for the season, and then Mike O'Shea would confirm it. But that's kind of the reality, the way it is. So asking for an update on Drew Wolodarski, nothing as of yet. But again, another receiver who could come back into the lineup and maybe a contributing factor to the Rasheed Bailey non-interest from Winnipeg. Chris, before we get into our keys to the game, or your keys to the game, want to remind everybody about Pure Lifestyle. This place is where you need to be for all of your healthcare needs. They are Winnipeg's premier proactive healthcare facility, advancing healthcare excellence. Whether you got strains, sprains, breaks, whatever encounters you have this summer, Pure's got you covered with their brand new minimal wait time minor injury walk-in clinic. So you no longer have to wait forever at the ER or urgent care or Pan Am. You can go to Pure at 1129 Empress Street. That is just north of Polo Park. You can book online at purewinnipeg.com or give them a call at 338-PURE. That's 204-338-PURE. Just pulling up their phone number here, 338-7873. You'll find everything at purewinnipeg.com. But it doesn't matter what happens. Sports-related pain, job site injury, whatever. Outstanding people and facilities at Pure Lifestyle in Winnipeg. You're not going to be disappointed. They'll take care of you top to bottom, no matter what might be ailing you. And you can even get your GP, your regular doctor there. You need some mental health help. No judgment. They will take care of you there in very discreet private settings. So be sure to check them out, purewinnipeg.com. Big thanks to them for continuing to support us as we support them here on Bonfire Sports. This game means so much, Chris. Kenny Lawler, Lucky Whitehead, Nathan Rourke, and the third and final meeting of the season between the Lions and the Bombers, the two teams everyone expected to be atop the West Division. Not the case right now, but the second half of the season will be so indicative of how things shake out come October and November. Your keys to the game to see if Winnipeg can capture a second straight win against BC, hand them their fourth straight loss, and win the season series.
Well, I think it's pretty obvious right now with 50,000 plus fans in BC Place. I know from previous history playing there, it's going to be loud, much louder than piped-in music at practice. But I think the offensive key for the Bombers is get out of the gate early, get some points on the board, make those drives successful. I don't care what kind of points you get, field goals, touchdowns. Take the crowd out of the game. But you also got a thing here. I think it's going to be the Brady and Kenny show, talking about let loose the Lawler. Kenny Lawler back. He had a big game there, 200-plus yards last year. I think he's looking and hungry and chomping at the bit to make an impact. So look out for those guys offensively. Defense, continue the dominance. I mean, no touchdowns the last two games. They've had 48 drives without a touchdown. They got 4 sacks. They had pressure on the last time they played BC against Vernon Adams. I mean, they held them to 79 yards passing. This is a team that BC was averaging 469 yards offense. In the last 2 weeks, they've had over like 216. So really get out there and continue dominance. And then I'm looking for special teams. We get to watch 2 of the best field goal kickers. I've said that last game too, with Sean White, who's now 45 in a row, 27-27 this year, and Sergio, who's kicked 2 over 60 already. He's 5 or 7 over 7 and 9 over 50 yards. But the thing is, I'm looking for is the X Factor, and I call him that, the X Factor. It's usually Dembski, but this time, let's see Lucky Whitehead returning that. I think he's going to have a big game, and he's going to be a spark for the return game for the Bombers. That's it, baby.
I love it. Chris, look, everybody knows you're out at the lake. Some are upset you're not on the dock this week. Maybe we'll get that straightened out.
Yeah, I'll do it next time. I should be. It's muggy as hell in this cabin. Yeah. I'm sweating just doing the show.
Well, that's why you're swearing so much. You're irritable.
Yeah, I am. Look at that. I got my arrow hat. Don't know where I found it, but it's okay.
Yeah.
The arrow's pointing up.
I want to remind everybody, you can find us online, bonfiresports.ca. All of our social medias at Bonfire WPG. We go live pregame the day before the game, just like this, every single week. Myself and Chris Walby, and postgame live, game day after dark, moments after the final gun in every Blue Bombers game. Be sure to join us. We go live to YouTube, Twitter, X, Facebook, and Instagram. So be sure to follow us on all of those social media channels. Lots more coming in the coming weeks. I've been dialing back the Bombers daily content, Chris, because we are planning for a big endeavor into Winnipeg Jets hockey. I know people have been waiting a long time for it, harassing me for it. It's going to happen. I tweeted out a couple stories that I wrote for NHL.com on Alphonse Frage, the Jets' first-round draft pick this year, on Brad Lambert, on Colby Barlow, a roster piece as well, so you can find those on my Twitter account at Darrin Bauming. Links to all of that in the video description here on YouTube. But most importantly, be sure to share Bonfire Sports with your friends, your family, your buddies at work, your neighbor, whoever it may be. That's how you help support Bonfire. Keep that fire stoked, keep it fueled, and by supporting our sponsors as well. PureWinnipeg.com, ScotswoodLinks.com. That's Scotswood with one T. Links to all of them in the video description below here on YouTube and Facebook. But big thanks to you, Chris. Always appreciate your time away from your true relaxation at the lake. So thank you for that. Crack a couple coldies for me.
I will.
We'll see you after the game.
I appreciate it, man. And go Bombers, go Blue. I'm looking forward to this game. I think it's going to be a great game. I know the fans will be watching it on the tube. And I'm looking for big things. But it's going to be a battle. I wish I could say I could pick a winner right now, but I don't know, man. I'm just saying, go Blue. Let's do it. And that's it. So, goodbye. I got to...